Dark Satellite Media.
So I was a little late. But hey, man, welcome to Red River Podcast, another episode. Today I get to hang out with Frank Antonetti, who is one of the owners, or the owner, over at Rust and Gold in Huntington, and he is fucking awesome. So thank you for hanging out with me.
Thank you for having me, man. So excited. Very, very honored to be a part of it.
Cool. Yeah, so we were talking about the Shudder thing. So I know that, are you familiar with Joe Bob Briggs at all?
I'm not too familiar with him. No, Savini, I'm a little more well versed in, so I didn't read too much into it.
Okay. So Joe Bob actually, the last thing that I did before we all shut down was I went to go see Joe Bob do a 2-hour lecture over at the Cinema Arts Center in Huntington.
Nice.
And he's kind of like this like cinephile dude, man. Who, so he had a show on like the USA Network back forever ago. And the format is basically like he's so goddamn well versed in so much shit that he'll play a movie. So he'll do like a double feature on the Shudder app. And then he'll, instead of like commercial breaks, it'll be just him talking about the movie and little things about it and the actors and what they like, just basically miles and miles of information because this dude is amazing, and it's a lot of fun to listen to him. You know, anytime he's done podcasts, he's like a treasure of knowledge that you just never knew that you wanted to listen to.
That's awesome.
So he did something at the Cinema Arts Center, which was like a 2-hour lecture on how rednecks saved the cinema or something like that. So it was just like this verbal thing. And it came with like pictures, so it was just this long fucking thing, man. And he's a funny guy, and he brought up basically the history of rednecks in cinema from like the beginning of time and like where they came from to like the end, like the Cannonball Runs and like the fucking.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's a trip, man. For people that are into movies and like like a guy who's super witty and funny. Fantastic shit, and but it's on the Shudder app, which I don't know if you have.
I haven't got, I'm so new to this. I'm like barely ever home, so now I'm finding myself with all this extra time home. Like I just put Hulu in like a month ago, so I'm very behind on my streaming apps.
Okay, I love Hulu. I think Hulu might be the thing that I watch. I probably watch Hulu more than I watch Netflix and Amazon. I think it's just really cool for TV. So I caught up on like the Goldbergs. They have a lot of cool like original stuff, like The Act and stuff. So what are you finding on Hulu? Anything good?
So I came to Hulu for Letterkenny. Okay. I got like kind of really intrigued by that guy's whole story. Did you watch that?
I don't know it, so tell me.
Oh, awesome. So Letterkenny, it's a comedy show. It's acted, and it's basically, it takes place in, Letterkenny is a fictional small village up in like rural Canada, but it's not French Canadian, it's like Irish immigrant Canadian.
Okay. So
similar types of humor as far as, I would say the joke style like is like kind of halfway between Super Troopers and Seinfeld, in that it's, the same clique of people that like have good hearts with each other, but like, like outside of their crew, they're not very trusting, and they kind of get themselves into a lot of scenarios. But the humor is a little bit more lowbrow, and that's where like more the Super Troopers aspect of it comes in. But the guy that creates it, and his name's escaping me, it follows his own life story. So he legitimately grew up as a young, the like a second generation Irish Canadian immigrant. And he had the very traditional Canadian lifestyle. He grew up playing youth boys hockey like every other kid. His family owned like a local mill. They're almost like these like wilderness like rednecks, would kind of be a way to compare them. But he just turned out to be incredibly intelligent and funny. And so he ended up having these dreams of being an actor, and he left that town to come to LA. And he had a few, if you look it up, you of all people would definitely know a few of the things he's been in. He's had a few credits in some like lesser known stuff.
Okay.
While he was trying to pursue this, he just started a blog called Letterkenny Problems that basically was like a joke blog about making jokes about living in a small rural Canadian town. It took off and it got so much notoriety that he ended up being able to like crowdfund a few episodes of the pilot show, and then it took off, and now it's like 7 seasons in. It's like one of the bigger things Hulu, I think, has like got behind recently, and it's good. It's good stuff.
So for someone that was new to like streaming stuff, like how did you even come across this enough to basically jump for this is what makes you get Hulu. So how did you come across it?
Believe it or not, it was, I don't know if it was just, like the gods of my phone's listening to me, or like some sort of targeted campaign.
Yes.
But when Letterkenny first started blowing up, it was one of those things where, like, when you fall into like the Facebook hole where like you start off and it's just like, like your Guido cousin posting a Sopranos clip, but then you watch that and then you keep on scrolling and then like you just get further down the hole. So those kept popping up, and it was like little clips. And the first one, it was so funny because the first skit that I saw was the skit where it's the 3 main characters that I'm now more familiar with, and they're standing around a grill and they're basically arguing over the way to cook a steak properly. And it's all very, very fast, very dry dialogue back and forth, and like, it's got a good rhythm to it and stuff. And for me, I thought it was like a one-off skit that like I got a targeted ad because I'm always talking about food because I'm a fat fuck. But like then I saw more and more pop up, and finally piqued enough interest, and like a couple of people whose opinions I trusted were like, watch it. And then so that's what made me download the app, and now I'm starting to delve a little bit further into it, and it's great. Like it's definitely fills a lot of the holes that Netflix has, and I've kind of fallen off with Netflix recently. I really only go there now for like, they're putting a lot of, it seems to be they're putting a lot of stock in like the true crime docs. Like there's like a new one every couple of weeks, and I just finished like another one today and stuff, and obviously did Tiger King, but like I've never been like crazy impressed with the quality of their movies. There's a ton of filler to sift through.
Me neither. Like I never, their horror movies are complete shit. And occasionally they'll get something cool. Now they have like a row for award-winning movies. So yesterday, I never watched Taxi Driver. That's a movie that just slipped through the cracks.
Nice.
And yesterday I watched it for the first time because it was on Netflix, and it was part of like their award-winning row. And I was like, you know what? I'm like 44 years late on this movie, so let me put it on. Did you ever see that movie?
I watched it. Same thing. Like I slept on it for years. I watched it once, long enough ago, where it would. I'm due for a refresher. But I remember it being incredibly brutal, and being slightly uncomfortable at the. Who's that? Jodie Foster?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting because it's like you're watching, Harvey Keitel, who looks like like he's in drag or something. Like he's just like got this long hair, and he's like hideous. He looks like a 70s like junkie. I don't know. Whatever role he was going for, he definitely nailed, because that's exactly what he looked like. And
yeah,
he's
exactly.
like caressing.
No, they really sell you on like that entire vibe of like the way the city feels, and kind of like the plight of a character like De Niro's.
Yeah, I love that part. I love my uncle drove a cab in the city for years, and a lot of times, like we would drive around, and maybe he would like drive, like I guess somehow we would meet up, and like I would drive around in the cab with him, and he would take me around to like the cool spots. So I remember that at a young age, and just like what the city looked like, and obviously in '76 it was, it just seemed grimier, or maybe like Scorsese just picked that up. And it's funny because it does have the parallels to Joker that came out like last year, and I don't know. I don't know how that movie did it, but the cinematography felt very real to me. Like, it didn't feel like this like fake land that they made up. It really felt like 1981 New York City. In
Joker, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh man, yeah. I mean, that when people like, it's so weird when people call that like a superhero movie. Like I've heard it categorized as that, and I'm like, it's just not. I mean, like. Like there's not one There's not one bit of superhuman strength throughout the entire film. He's wearing makeup for the last minute of it. You know what I mean? Like, or and he's actually Joker. Like in the clown and stuff. So it's like it's but I just thought it was so phenomenal and so gritty and so and it made me so bummed for like just the current state of the rest of like superhero movies and what's going on with them and how like glossy and kind of over the top they are. Who was that? Scorsese said that, right?
Yeah. Like when I guess he was like promoting
when Endgame came out, right? I think he was shitting on it.
He was shitting on it, and like I get it. I'm not really into comic book movies, so for me to watch The Joker, it was just because Todd Phillips made it. And I think Todd Phillips is great. And it just seemed like a movie that wasn't from that universe. And then when it really was just Karen. Karen's like, let's go see Joker. And I was like, whatever. Nice. I'll eat popcorn. But after the movie, I was like, oh, that was kind of like unique and gross and really disturbing in ways. Joaquin Phoenix's like body was like contorting in weird ways. And the scenes where like it's so cliche to say like an unraveling, but it was, and the way they presented it was great. Like it was effective. Like everything that everything was wrong. Even his mom was fucked up. The girl that he liked was like this figment of his imagination. She wasn't really, which is almost like a Taxi Driver thing, like when you really think about it. And it just, I don't know, it really worked for me. And the fact that Todd Phillips is so successful after making the Gigi Allen documentary is one of the greatest, Hollywood stories ever.
Jesus Christ! I completely just lost my train of thought because you got me so like Gigi Allen just like always throws me off my game.
Well, I mean,
is that like wait like he shot the original one, like the one back in the day that ends with like the riot?
Hated, yeah. That's Todd Phillips. That was his college movie.
Are you serious? That's fucking awesome. I never knew that.
And then he made. I think the thing he made after was Road Trip.
Nice. Okay, I remember my thought, so we can edit that in. The thing that I thought that was so interesting and so effective, and this probably reveals a little too much about my character, but I know a lot of us are in the same boat. The way that I knew that like if they had done a good job is by the end of the movie, you kind of know what's going to happen. When he's sitting there on the couch, he's like, all right, he's either going to kill himself or he's going to kill De Niro.
Sure.
The feeling that I had inside, it wasn't like that weird sort of rooting for the bad guy kind of feel. At that point, they had developed his character so disturbing to me. It felt more like when you were like younger and you discovered like Rotten.com and you went on there and like you knew you were watching and you knew you were about to watch like some fucking, like awful video from a third world country of something terrible happening to somebody. And it was real. And you had that, it was a different feeling. It's like that pit in your stomach type of like, oh, I feel like shitty for humanity, like, and I feel shitty about myself or what, like that type of feeling I got when that was approaching, and I'm like, wow, I've never had a movie elicit that response before. It's so sick.
Very much so. So like, like funny you said Rotten.com, fucking disgusting. But yeah, but back then I was like, now I can't watch shit like that because I feel like I'm closer to death now than I was like 25 years ago. I'm like, no, I'm like, when I was 15, I was like, that shit just seemed like forever. I'm like, I'll live forever. Now at like 42, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. That could be tomorrow.
Now it's like a Five Guys burger to take us down. We don't need to watch like favela guys getting their arms macheted off.
So I had that same feeling, and maybe everyone had that feeling watching that scene. It felt real. It felt like I was watching, because you saw like this thing, and you knew this is where it was just going to fucking elevate. And when he actually did shoot De Niro, it looked real.
Yeah.
It didn't look very Hollywood. It just looked like something really grotesque. And you're like, holy shit, this guy just fucking completely, like where he went, he's not coming back from. Like, that's it.
Yep.
Just
that sick slump, like that quick slump back. There's no bullet tracing. Trinity isn't jumping out of a window backwards in slow motion, like it's just like, and then, and it goes back to like, you're fucking the Bud Dwyer video, like just that weird type of like I thought of that too. Like I was just sitting there and people like, and they did such a good job of with the audience reaction. Like just like hearing everyone just like slowly realize what the hell just happened and then freak out. Very good stuff.
Unbelievable. Speaking of Netflix and Bud Dwyer and those videos, did you watch that "Don't Fuck with Cats" documentary?
I did. And you know what, man? Like as somebody, like I said, that I was around for the Rotten.com days. Am I the only one that this video's like virality, I guess you call it, like completely missed me? I never saw this video. I never heard of it or anything back in the day, like when it came out.
The Ice Pick one?
Yeah.
I saw it. So
this is why you host the show.
So okay. First of all, I don't remember the last time something made my stomach, like when I didn't know what I was watching. I was like, oh, Don't Fuck with Cats. I'm like, oh, this is like a funny thing. And I put it on. And when I realized what he was doing with those two kittens, the inside of my stomach just, I got like, I had to like pace because I wanted to kind of like, I wanted to kill this person. And, I said to myself, I'm going to watch the rest of this because I want to make sure that this person is in jail or murdered. Because it disturbed me, like what he did to the cats. So by the time it got to the second video, which was the Ice Pick video, I had remembered the story. Yeah, I thought it was fake, and so I don't know. I never thought of it again. I was like, oh, this is weird, but it was creepy, and I was like, it's supposed to be something, but like, yeah, back then it was, the internet wasn't as like, I don't know. It was just, you could just pull shit up from like wherever, and you're like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot harder to trace sources and kind of like.
Yeah, like I don't know what this is, but I saw the video and I just thought it was fake. And man, by the end, the basic instant connection, like everything about that was the most depraved, like star hungry, like the most ultimate in like brain, like just mentally ill star fucking, like someone who just wanted to be so known and so famous that they were just operating on, like, man, you want to talk. That was a home run true doc that they did. Between that and the Tiger King stuff, Netflix excelled there.
Yeah, I mean that guy took very good point with the stardom. It's like the top of the totem pole was like the Bjork bomber, Selena's manager, and then that guy just climbed on top of fucking both of them.
I just mental illness is crazy. Like but that the. What happens is, anyone has this possibility now to go viral. And I think, some people, I don't know, some people just can't handle social media, like there's just too much information for them. And there's too much like, I don't know, I just sign on, I post YouTube links, I talk about podcasts, but some people.
What the good Lord intended it to be for,
Yeah, like you just like random shit, you talk to your friend that moved to Ohio, you never get a chance to see him. But some people just, they can't take it. It's like too much for them, they.
Nah, yeah. I mean, it's just, I think that, not everyone in the world was meant to have a microphone, That's why it was easier when the people, for the most part, the people that had microphones did something to get there, and were a little bit more responsible or at least deserving of it. Oh, now we all got them, and we're not doing too good.
Before we talk about Rust and Gold, I really wanted to ask you how far along, because I know you started watching The Wire for the first time. So how far along are you?
I finished. I actually just finished a couple of days ago. One of the first things I got to say is I believe we're past the save point for spoilers here.
Sure.
I started watching. I'm now watching shows. When did that was the late 90s, right?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Probably one of my favorite series finale episodes.
Okay.
I thought that they did such a good job of. They weren't rewriting the book. It certainly wasn't the Sopranos dead stop or, like something controversial like that. They definitely kept it safe. But I really thought that it was a great job of kind of recapping everywhere that they had been over the last, 5 seasons. Keeping the focus on McNulty, but overall the show was just really phenomenal. I think that it was cool because now in the HBO app they had the producers and the show writers kind of do a quick little blurb before each season started. So that was a nice kind of break, especially for someone like me that wasn't paying attention to it when it was relevant and new, to kind of get a little bit more background on what the inspiration for each season was and stuff, you know. And so I think it was you that had warned me that, you know, like season 2 is a little tough, but then they get back to business in season 3.
Well,
So
I mean, that was the consensus. Me, I liked it. I like the angle that they took. I like Sabatka.
yeah,
I liked Zig. I like that because you know, they did the drug trade in the first one. This is like
Mhm.
kind of more of like, you know, like, oh, okay, you know, it was like the docks in Maryland and all that. So it was like a nice little angle that they were trying to do, because the writing for that show, what I remember, was so intricate. Like
Mhm.
it was just like from the politicians to the detectives to the criminals, to the people in the neighborhood, and I feel like, man, you know, it just felt so authentic to me, even though I didn't live there. But it felt like such a representation of this vast story that they were fucking telling. So it made sense that they would venture off to someplace else instead of, you know, sticking in the corner.
Mhm. I agree. I think that, you know, by the end of the series, I felt that they had accomplished what they had sought out to, and that was telling the story of a city from a bunch of different angles. And they really hit. I mean, like when you think about what makes a city run or what's integral to it or what's worth exploring, if you want to talk about, you know, we're dissecting an entire city that's failing, you know, and they hit on every single one. You know, they started first with, you know, police and crime. Then they went on to the plight of the working man. Then they went on to, you know, media, the schools. And at the end of the day, like on that last episode, when he's sitting there and he's just like looking out over the Boston, you know, like the I'm sorry, the Baltimore skyline, and you just sit there and you're like, wow, man, like I went to Baltimore once, and I played a show at one of the scariest clubs I've ever played in my life. I literally walked across the street to get a pack of smokes out of the still existent cigarette machine, and I literally walked into a strip club and watched a stripper like walk off the stage with like her measly like $10 and go fucking literally buy crack from the guy that's sitting in the corner just doing it in like full sight of everybody. And I'm like, wow, we're in fucking Baltimore, huh?
Wow.
But and like while I was very happy to leave and go on to the next part of that, the next date on that tour, I was so intrigued by that. You know, like that was the one thing that, so cities like that, when we would hit like Detroit and like just see like just complete, just fucking ruin. You know, that's what drew me to The Wire first off. And they really did a good job of kind of showing how deep that runs, like not only in the streets and, you know, and the cool thing about that show too is by the end of it, you don't really think about like the crack dealers as the problem. You know, Omar is essentially the show's hero, if there like is one, you know,
Yeah.
like, and it's more just about like, it realizes, you know, like they start from the ground and they work up. And by the end of it, you're like, man, these fucking people never had a chance to begin with, because all these suits are the ones that are all fucked up.
Yeah, and it's just like the decimation, you know, with anything. Like you take crack and you circulate it into anything. It's like you know, it's like a lab test, you know, like
Mhm.
you know, for someone who was hooked on drugs, you know, like I've been sober for 22 years, but
God bless, congrats.
thanks. I remember what it's like, and I remember what people would go through, and you know, now you see enough of these documentaries where, you know, these neighborhoods would get flooded with this stuff, and I don't care what color you are. Ask anyone who was hooked on, you know, crack or meth, what they would do or how they would feel, and everyone, you know, is brought to their knees, and they do fucked up shit, you know. So it's like this thing, man, that's just, you know, pretty fucked up, and I thought The Wire did a great job. And then they introduced
Yeah, dude.
like Barksdale, you know, you think that he's like this, like kind of like, you know, I was a Stringer Bell guy, but, you know, I was sorry to see him go. And when I was like, wait, I'm like, that black dude's English? Because I heard him talk. I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit. But man, I fucking hated fucking Marlowe. Because by 4 and 5, I wanted, like, I was on Team Barksdale. I was like, fuck Marlowe.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there was just something.
Well, my thing with Marlowe is that they never, like, if someone's going to be that like threatening, where he's got like who's his boy? Christopher was his main guy, right? The one that like goes and drags all the bodies into the like his
Yeah.
basically his main hitman.
Yeah.
You know, you got Christopher, who's this terrifying guy that's literally fucking like boarding up, and he's just listens intently to Marlowe. You know, so I kept waiting for the reveal. Like, why are we supposed to fear Marlowe if he's just another crack dealer? Like, let us see him. Like let us hear a story about how he fucking killed 20 people in one day, or like
Kaiser
like there was
Soze.
just never an angle. And on top of that, he wasn't like he's not a physically intimidating looking character. So then you have like this goddamn Adonis of Stringer Bell, and then like even Avon was a good looking dude. What's his name? He was the guy from oh man, wasn't he in the football movie?
I don't remember. I know he's been in a bunch of stuff, man. But I mean,
I thought he was in Remember the Titans, but I could be wrong. Anyway, Wire was sick. Such a good show. Now I'm out of shows again.
Wow, you could always
Right
rewatch. You could always rewatch The Sopranos.
That's true.
So how long? I know that you're the owner of Rust and Gold, man. Just let me know how long that's been open, and how did the history of the place start?
So it's cool. One of the things that I dig so much about your podcast is that like you have not only such an amazing like in-depth and working knowledge of all sorts of media, but your background in independent music and kind of coming from the same like punk hardcore scene that we do. It was super awesome because we don't a lot of times if I get interviewed by like Edible or a food publication,
Sure.
That's great, but I always try to veer the conversation towards music, and they just don't care at all.
Yeah.
So and it's funny because without that scene, I doubt if any of us that had gotten involved in our own little corner there would really have ended up doing it. Long story short is, back in the day, myself and Sal, who's the owner of Vauxhall and Radio and Abbey Music Hall and a bunch of other places and stuff, we both played in bands, from Long Island, and we were both involved in that, hardcore, post-hardcore scene that was going on in the early 2000s. We're all trying to get our emo bucks. And we all accomplished some very moderate level of success. Sal way more than us. And basically, at some point we both kind of realized, hey, listen, like we're not making careers out of this, and we're not getting any younger at the same time. So after years of touring on an independent level, we didn't really have a whole lot of like skills to bring back to general society. But the one thing that we did know was clubs and bars, because we pretty much spent every single night. I mean, like for any of the listeners out there that have never had the joys and wonder of trying to be a DIY band on tour, it's a lot less the dirt and a lot more just actual dirt. And most of my nights were just, like sitting there, like talking to some bartender that doesn't even give a shit about me, and a half empty venue for hours, that's just to pass the time. So the one thing that we came back with was kind of this working knowledge of how, different bars work in different parts of the country and nightclubs and venues. And then as we got a little bit more popular, we got to see things operating on a more professional level and stuff, and working with crews and getting to talk to better bartenders and better managers and just bullshitting with them and stuff. So when we all got back, we all kind of didn't know what to do. I had taken just a part-time job at retail because it was something that I had done like in between tours. And I was like, I guess I'll just do this, and then Sal ended up taking over, part of with his partner, taking over part of what was at that point called Broadway Bar, but as I'm sure you know, has a long storied history in Long Island independent music. It was the Village Pub South. It was the Wrong Way In. I don't even know what it was before that.
Lots of things.
Yeah. So basically, I'm working the shit retail job, and Sal calls me up one day and he's like, quit your job, come and manage this music venue with me. And I'm like, oh, the old VP South. And he basically explained that, he had worked out a deal with the current owner who was looking to basically find a way to connect to the local music scene. He had failed to do that to that point. So Sal was like, okay, well, I just come back from being one of the biggest Long Island bands, so I have all these connections. And so we started, doing it. And I quit, and I went and I took the job there, and him and his old partner ran it, were the owners. I was a general manager. And for about 2 years, it was great. We built the place back up. We had some super legendary shows there. We ran some fun parties on the weekend. And after a while, we had kind of a falling out with the original owner. So we all kind of branched off and started going into different things. Sal went and opened up the Leaky Lifeboat, and I started working in bars and restaurants again. And, I just kind of like worked my way up. I ended up moving from the South Shore of the island up to Huntington Village. And that is, so while this is happening, I'm also developing a good friendship with Dan Valentino, Sal's partner at Vauxhall, another like that, played in a bunch of old Long Island hardcore bands. And him and Sal had gotten connected through Leaky Lifeboat, and they had decided to open up a place in Huntington. At the time, they asked me if I wanted to get involved. I was living there. Me and Dan were roommates, and I had kind of a good thing going with a restaurant group that I was with. So I said no at the time, and then they opened up Vauxhall and immediately started doing good because they did something that not a lot of people have done before, which is applying the aesthetic and the vibe and the even like the attitude of like independent artists and independent musicians to
man,
a
sure.
restaurant and a bar in like one that hadn't really seen that before.
Very much so. The aesthetic for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like even just a simple thing is like, I can't think of before that it was to go into a restaurant and hear like, the Smiths was unheard of. You were mostly listening to like, either Celine Dion or, like the Barry Manilow best stuff.
And that's big, man.
So
that
was
like
cool.
when you walk in, like for musicians, like you walk in and you hear something, like I don't know, like Texas is something completely left field. You're like, oh, this is my place. I'll be here.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%. And what's cool about that is I think that you can achieve that kind of vibe without being exclusive to people either. And that's a good thing that having someone like yourself, like I would trust you completely. If I told you, like, hey, listen, I want to create a restaurant, even if you've never worked in a restaurant before, like you having your musical knowledge, I know that you would create a playlist that would be both, like fit the vibe of the place and set the mood, but also appeal to the people that would get it. And that's, that's a fun thing to play around with.
For sure.
So, I'm working in my group. I'm still working at a restaurant in Huntington. Sal and Dan are doing their thing, and that's when I met my partners at Rust. I have two other partners at Rust.
Okay.
And we met through Sal, and, the spot where Rust and Gold currently was up for sale. It had been just kind of a more traditional sports bar. It was a place called Rookies. And back in the day, like when it first opened, it was huge. It was a massive success, but it had changed hands a bunch of times, and the current owners kind of fell out of love with the restaurant industry. So they were pretty motivated to leave. So after, basically myself and my partners, Jay and Lou, they started coming to Swallow, and we just kind of started putting our heads together. Like they would come, I would make them drinks, and we would just sit there and kind of bullshit and talk about our ideas as far as, what a restaurant should be and what we kind of want to bring to it and stuff. And then, we ended up agreeing after a couple of months of, I guess, professionally flirting with each other that we should give it a shot. So we went and got everything together and opened up Rust in September of 2016. And so far, up until about a month and a half ago, things were going great.
Yeah. I mean, gorgeous place, great menu. The DJ is there, the times that I've been there. Who was that? Fots Beat, right?
Yeah. Fots Beats is great. We have Savage, who's our buddy Mike Lynch, who's just the way that you are with your style of music and with the movies and everything that you cover on this podcast. He's probably the only white guy I know that I would put up against anyone for his knowledge of old school hip hop and old school house. He was a big like tunnel and like exit guy back in the day. So, but he's like the one thing like you said, which I appreciate you recognizing, is just there's so much of an appreciation for music, and that runs through like everything. My partner Lou is like a phenomenal producer. He's a big hip hop head himself. He does really great beats. He's been featured on a few like artist tracks. I wouldn't even begin to have that conversation, but you and him would definitely know a lot of the same guys. I know you put up RA a lot, and he knows he fucks with him and a few other of the more local guys and stuff.
And
even Jay, my other partner, like when we sit there and we have to go and we're spending a day just like, doing maintenance work, music is always the conversation. It's always kind of the blood that runs through it, and it's important.
It's like such a unifier, like the arts and stuff like that. I mean, listen, the fact that you are able to parlay it into something, like a restaurant business, which is a legitimate business, which most people don't really even have the opportunity to do, or they don't roll the dice on themselves. And you did that, but the unification of certain things. I forgot what the quote was. If you like the same band, then you're not a stranger, some shit like that. So when someone likes a random movie or a random album that no one else knows, it's like this constant or just connection, or and that's the beauty of it. And you get to display all of that shit fucking at Rust and Gold. And wasn't there? Man, that sign that I love. Was it really?
Oh, yeah, but yeah, Talking Heads sign. This must be the place.
Yeah, because that's like the best song.
I am so happy that sign has survived, and we literally have had the cops called on people that have been around that sign and tried to fuck with it before. That's way too important, and that's we're lucky, man. That was a one of a kind piece. This awesome dude named Marcus Poston, it just is this crazy dude that just lives in a big apartment in Brooklyn and just makes these things with his hands. So he pulled that together for us. Talking Heads are just great. I mean, that song just you can't help but just put a smile on your face the second that song starts.
Absolutely, and it's the double meaning too. The song, the band, but also talking about the bar. This
of course, yeah.
So
giving people that home, baby.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure everything will eventually work itself out once we start stop wearing masks and go eat. But all right, so I wanted to talk to you. I think a lot of times we touch base on Messenger for fun top fives, and I think one of the things that we brought up was opening scenes. So there's nothing better than when you're watching a movie and within the first 10-15 minutes of a movie, or even less, you feel like, okay, there's no way that this movie is going to suck. So I said, hey, why don't we pick 5 of our favorite movie openings? And there was a whole bunch of them, and I'm sure there's some that I forgot, but I figure, fuck it, let's do it. So what would be your number 5?
My number 5. Okay. My top 3 are kind of in any order, sure. But I'm going to start off with the opening scene of the original Blade Runner.
Okay.
I think that they make you, and the reason that it's number 5 is because they make you sit through, the complete opening credits on just black screen before they get to the first shot, which is all right, I don't know if that would last anymore in current day and age. People's attention spans are a little short, but at the same time, I like it because it just gets all of the business out of the way and gets you right into setting the mood. And when you see that opening sequence, I'm so glad that there's not any credits over it. I like it because it's kind of an interesting, at this point, we're still so uncertain. And the 80s came with this really dark dystopian view of the future. And I think that they have kind of a cool take on it, their twist on, what architecture would look like and just the general feel.
So true.
And then you have Vangelis coming in with this super beautiful, moody synth track. There's a couple of quick shots of that eyeball that you don't know what it means yet, and then you come to learn what it means. Just thought it was a very moody, very kind of dark, slow introduction, and it kind of forces you to be hey, listen, this isn't Star Wars Harrison Ford. This is a very atmospheric, moody movie. Slow down and just enjoy everything,
Yeah, very, very true about 80s bring in that dystopian view, especially now when you in 2020, when you go back to watch these movies that are before, it's okay, this is what it's going to be in 2010, and now we're 10 years past that, so it's interesting. Oh shit, we're 10 years past that. But great pick, man.
Thank you.
So my number 5, man, really tough to narrow it down. But I'm gonna go with a new movie. So mine would be Baby Driver.
Nice.
Edgar Wright's a genius. This motherfucker, I don't know. His movies play like fucking music videos. So in the very beginning, it's a heist movie, which I love. And the 4 people that are robbing this bank go in. This dude, Baby, who's obviously Baby Driver, sitting in the car, and he's listening to music. It's the John Spencer Blues Explosion, and he's singing along to it while they're robbing this bank, and it's a very tense scene. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen the movie?
I have, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's just that whole beginning sequence, and then when they get in the car and he starts driving away, it's I hate watching so much CGI because that's all there is now. This is like so real, like the spin outs. These cars are like basically like performing ballet. Everything looks so fucking well done. Then they get away, and then the next opening, the continuing like with the title, he's like dancing in the streets, and the Harlem Shuffle plays. It's this constant songs, and the visual gags are just so fucking great, man. Like I remember seeing it in the movie theater and thinking, okay. 7 minutes in, and it's already been like two of the best songs, and I just knew. I'm like, there's no way that any part of this movie was going to suck, and it turned out to be my favorite movie of 2017.
I think that you could strip away, you could strip away all of, the good music in that, and so many of those kind of intentional Easter eggs, like kind of those visual effects that kind of kept the beat of the music going. And if that was just more of a straight action film, I think it still would have been a very solid film. So now you throw that element on top of it, just how this has this, like, music is literally the heart of the movie throughout the entirety of it. And it's such a cool, unique experience. I love that movie. I've only watched, I gotta watch that again. I only watched that once.
Cool. So number 4.
All right, number 4. Hold on, I'm gonna go to my list. Now I'm making the second guess my order. So only because I can't. Nope, I'm switching. I'm switching my number 4 because this is one I just like a little bit more. Sure. So my number 4 is going to be Drive. And I thought I love Nicholas Winding Refn. I don't know if you've watched any of his stuff like before that. Like if you watched like Bronson with Tom Hardy in it and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he's a killer actor. Killer director. And Gosling, if there's that one guy, and just that whole, opening sequence, I think is so, he's the whole pass. I think, that whole, cause if I'm not mistaken, that was kind of a breakout role for him as kind of a very different, serious, like dark role. And
so.
Like especially, I think up to that point, everyone was. I'm trying to think if there was ever any big movies between Notebook and that, or was that kind of the first time that we saw him in something?
Yeah, I think that's the first time. Like, I think it's
right.
You saw him in like a different light, like that Musketeer or whatever the fucking Mickey Mouse shit fucking went away.
Yeah.
And he's like kicking ass in this thing, and great movie, man. And it just
you have the chromatics with Tick of the Clock. I think Tim Martinez directs most of the music for Nicholas Winding Refn's films, and he always does such a good job. And that track is so fitting. And again, just tense. When I was going through my list, a lot of, like an obvious choice that appears on almost every list is The Dark Knight. And, that's a beautiful opening sequence. To me, this accomplished the same thing. But just had a couple, like music, it was a little bit more indie, a little bit more cool, but it was that same type of like continuous, like minimal dialogue. Any dialogue that's there is there to just kind of like set up. It's just Gosling giving his instructions, how he operates, and then just tense music, and then, like leading right into that cutscene, and then Kavinsky starts and the title hits, and it's just awesome.
And funny enough, Baby Driver and Drive are kind of like the same plot, They're just
exactly.
And also, Drive had the band College and that reoccurring song "Real Human Being."
Mm-hmm.
In that movie, and that song's fucking really good. Definitely good.
I didn't catch it, but that's College, and that's a collab with another band called Electric Youth. And they did. I'm so fucking pissed I missed this too. They did a tour supporting it, where like literally they even played other tracks off the soundtrack that wasn't theirs, and some of their own stuff as well. And it was a whole kind of, like I know you and I have had some conversations before about like that retro new wave, kind of genre. But they had a whole, like, they really tried to milk that one track for Everything Is Worse, because I haven't heard much about him since then.
No, you're right. Yeah, that was it. But I mean, that was a fucking killer track.
That is a killer track.
So my number 4, I went old school. When I was a kid, I remember going to see Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones, like in the movie theater.
Nice.
And the beginning, so like the beginning is just so wild, like Indy meets up with these like Asian dudes, and somewhere along the way he gets poisoned, and they fucking have the antidote, but then Indy has like this stone, and just this melee breaks out, And do you remember the intro at all?
God, I haven't. You threw me so off because everyone always chooses Raiders for like the opening sequence.
Nah, this one was my shit. So
yeah,
so Willie, the blonde girl, and him are they're like go like everyone's fighting. He's looking for the antidote to cure himself from the poison. She's looking for the stone. They end up flying out the window, and then they land in a car, and then fucking Short Round turns around, pre-Goonies. And then they fucking drive off to this plane, and they think they get away, but the guy that they were running away from owns the plane. So this, and then they take off, and what he does is he has the two pilots jump with parachutes out, and then they wake up and they realize that they're two fucking pilots that are flying the plane. Fucking left the plane, and the plane's about to crash. So the only thing that they have to jump with is an inflatable raft. So it's just like as a kid, it's like everything that is so unbelievable on the planet. But I don't know. It was one of those movie openings that I just never forgot. And of course, Raiders is a good one, but and
that one stuck with you.
It did, because Temple of Doom I saw in the theaters. I was too young for Raiders, and what I realized is, I guess Temple of Doom, in retrospect, was for kids like me, and Raiders were for the adults, because they were just like, oh, fuck, it got too goofy for Temple. Little did I know. But yeah, that's my number 4.
My brother my next oldest brother is 6 years older than me. So it was his job to just torture me and exert his authority, which makes sense because he's a cop now.
Yo, definitely.
And but he used to wake me up from naps, like if I fell asleep on the couch, and I'm like a little kid too. He would always put his hand over my chest and just start screaming Kalima, and oh my god, that would F me up for the rest of the day. I would just be like,
so one of the first Playing Dead songs that I wrote, that was one of the lyrics, Kalima Shakti Le. I threw that in the song. I threw that in the song. I was like, Kalima Shakti Le is what she said as she ripped my heart away. Or something.
That's amazing.
It was like something stupid like that, and but
that has to be the absolute best use of Kalima in any sort of modern song.
I have the song somewhere. I'll dig it up. But what are we up to? You're number 3?
We are up to number 3. Cool. So for this, I'm going to one of my all-time favorite movies. I'm going to go with From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh wow!
I just think that I could, and it's funny because I was sitting. I don't know. Did you go back and watch clips of just the openings while you were making your list?
I did. I went through everything just to make, because we talked about it for 2 weeks, and I was like, I need to marinate on certain things and just kind of pick. I needed to make a list of 10 and pick my 5 out of those 10.
Yeah. So when I'm watching them, of course, all of them made me want to just continue watching all the way through. But that one I did, because it's just there's other ones when you're watching Drive, it's okay, I know what's going to happen. I know what's coming for the rest of the film and stuff like that. So you almost have to be in the mood for, Drive gets dark. Drive has, some downturns to it and stuff like that, but this, it's well, shit, man. After I get through the opening credits, I have fucking Salma Hayek. I have I have Cheech Marin screaming pussy. I have everything I need out of a movie. And obviously, more vampires than you can shake a shotgun crucifix at.
Yeah.
But what's so cool about the opening is, and it's also tough because this is I don't have any Tarantino films on here, so this is my honorable mention for Tarantino because I just couldn't decide. Inglourious Basterds is obviously a phenomenal opening,
absolutely.
But but then it's but how do you choose that over Reservoir Dogs? And then you could even throw in, Pulp Fiction's opening is pretty entertaining, so I was I'll go forever with Tarantino, and so I was let's do something with Tarantino in it. And, that's probably the only intro that I think could just be a freestanding short movie, and would have been completely suitable because it actually doesn't really have to do much with the rest of the movie,
not at all.
If you were to show someone that opening and have them write the rest of the movie, chances are they're not going to write From Dusk Till Dawn. They're going to write, something else. They're going to write a some sort of Bonnie and Clyde style, kind of highway shoot 'em up.
Yeah, man. It's that was definitely something, and Selma Hayek at her peak, sticking her foot in Tarantino's mouth. I said I was watching it the other day, and I said it's definitely the best foot and mouth scene that doesn't involve penetration. So
it's true.
All right, so my number 3, I'm taking it to 2007. This is a movie that really fucking shocked the shit out of me because I thought it was amazing. Zombieland.
Oh yeah,
man, that fucking beginning, it was one of those situations where, once again, I'm in a movie theater and this opening kicks off. Eisenberg's talking about Jesse Eisenberg's talking about like just kind of like the state of the world now and how different it is, and then he's talking about like the rules that he lives by in this zombie apocalypse, and one of them is cardio. And when he said cardio, I'm like, that makes sense. He's like, all the fat people died first because they couldn't run away because these are fast zombies. The double tap rule, which is just to make sure that the zombie is dead. Was the other one. Beware of bathrooms, obviously, because there's a scene in the beginning where like somebody's taking a shit and the zombie crawls up underneath the toilet. And the last one, so this is where the style comes in. And a lot of these movies, sometimes it's style over substance. This had both. So the fourth rule that he had in the beginning was fasten your seatbelt. And, this girl gets away from zombies only to basically get into a car crash. And then she flies out of the car because she didn't have the seatbelt. And she scrapes her fucking face all under the ground, on the pavement. And then For Whom the Bells Tolls kick in. And I'm just like, this is fucking going to be awesome. Like, there's no way in hell this movie's going to suck. And it didn't. I thought it was great.
Yeah, and I felt that movie came along at such a cool time when we were getting close, or you can make the argument that we already were getting oversaturated with zombie films.
Absolutely.
That were just, reinventing serious takes on them.
Yep.
And we'd already gotten so many quality ones, even in the second wave of, like what I guess started with like Dawn of the Dead remake, like kept pushing forward, that, it was great to see, a comedic aspect to it. That still was super, super fun to watch. If anything, that, hit more to the nail more on the head of what a classic, like entertaining, fun zombie movie should be than a lot more of the serious attempts that had come out prior.
And very gory. Woody Harrelson was great in it. Just really cool characters, and I don't know. It was one of those zombie comedies that worked. Between that
Sure.
and there's another one called Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which is by far a better movie. Unbelievable. One of the best zombie movies. One of the best horror comedies I've seen over the last 20 years. So good.
Really?
Yeah, man. It's fucking good. Watch it. It slipped under the radar. Not a lot of people saw it, and it's
I know. I gotta go check it out. That sounds awesome.
Phenomenal. So, what are we up to? Your number 2?
We're up to number 2.
Cool.
Number 2 is probably my most my most unoriginal. But I just if I don't say it, then I think immediately my father gets an alert and he calls me and he beats the shit out of me. But I'm gonna go with The Godfather.
Yes.
And but at the same time, it's like I stand by that.
Absolutely.
I had a little bit of a struggle between 1 and 2 because 2 has really a sick, a really great intro too, as far as young Michael Corleone coming to the country and stuff like that. But I felt that the first one did such a good job of setting up exactly what the plight of like the Italian immigrant was, and you sit there and within a couple of minutes you're already rooting for the murderous head of a organized crime family, because between, how they set it up, as far as, the favor that he's being asked and the story that you hear and how unfair the police are being to, this immigrant's family and how they've done nothing to help him and stuff. And then on top of that, you just have fucking Brando who, still had that sparkle in his eye. He's not Dr. Moreau yet. He's still got a little bit of the jawline.
Yeah.
And he's just endlessly cool,
Crush it.
And yeah.
I was going to say my number 2 is also, something that I had to put on, but yeah, like that's a great one. Godfather, you can't go wrong with it. And anything to make your dad happy.
Yeah, exactly.
But so my number 2 would be Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah.
So, sitting in a movie theater, 1994, remembering Reservoir Dogs and how great that intro was, and you see Amanda Plummer and Tim Roth, they're having this conversation, And you're like, okay, cool. And then the conversation turns to like, hey, like, I'm tired of robbing this place and that place. And then you realize that Tim is basically telling her that the best place to rob is a place that they're at, which is like a restaurant. And he starts explaining to her why. So you're like, okay, you're like, something's going to happen. And then it just keeps going and going. And I don't know, it's so nonchalant. It's so it's something that just turned out to be like a Tarantino trademark, but it was new back then. And he gives her a kiss and says, "I love you, honey bunny." And then you're like, are these motherfuckers like, you see them, they're in love, and you're kind of like interested, and then they fucking turn into that fucking monster, and she's like, all right, motherfucker. Like, she just does her thing, and then Dick Dale comes in, and you're like, okay, I'm in. I'm fucking in right now. Pulp Fiction, let's do it.
Dude. I mean, so I was a little bit later to the table with Tarantino, so I skipped on Reservoir Dogs. So that's what introduced me to Quentin Tarantino was Pulp Fiction. And so that scene, and I'll always remember, not only that scene and just how sharp it hits you when that title track comes in, but
so
the soundtrack as well. I remember specifically that same brother that used to call him Mommy. He's older now, and he had a girlfriend, and he had, like this like super cool girlfriend that was into all good films and shit like that. And she loved me, so she would always like suggest stuff for me, and she gave me a copy of that soundtrack. And then so I just remember like my brother's like hotter, cooler, older girlfriend dancing around to "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon," and I'm like, wow, I'm like, I barely know what my penis does yet, but it's doing something.
It's doing something. Yeah, man, that son of a preacher, man. There was a lot of things that even when I first got that soundtrack, it was such a hodgepodge of songs that I probably wouldn't have listened to. Flowers on the Wall, like just a really cool, Jungle Boogie, like really random soundtrack. But man, he just had an ear for music to go with the scene, and the rest is just history. So cool. We're closing in on this hour. We're almost done here. Let's do number one. All
right, number one. Now this is very controversial. I know I don't know if this is allowed, but I'm going back to back Coppola.
Sure.
With my number one, and by far one of my favorite movies of all time, and what I think is hands down one of the best opening scenes of any movie is Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay.
Like, first off, Gary Oldman is just the ultimate psychopath. And that opening, first of all, the music, I mean, as somebody that is a fan of horror and that's that book, I mean, the actual book itself I've read that book so many times as a kid. Seeing it in that way and seeing it in that light. Are you still with me?
I'm here.
Oh, sorry. I babble so goddamn much.
No.
Seeing
your episode.
Seeing it in that light, I thought there were so many cool visual effects to it. Also, growing up in a very, very strict Roman Catholic household, I immediately was drawn to anything of the occult nature and anything of, I grew up, like literally thinking that, the church is infallible. And then all of a sudden I was very lucky to live down the block from Flip Disc Records, which is this legendary metal shop, no longer exists. And so I literally used to, makes me sound way cooler than I am, but used to sneak out of church on a Sunday and go run to the listening station at Slip Disc and put on, the most vile death metal that I could just to get the opposite vibe of what I was doing. So I have that weird, I'm an adult, but I'm still doing something wrong by rooting for Dracula as you watch him immediately just descend, and then the whole opening crescendos, to literally him just being in this chapel that's, it's so fucked up. I mean, there's blood gushing out of crosses and angel statues are crying. Anthony Hopkins' voice over the whole thing is, he's got one of those voices that just cuts right through you. And then it crescendos to, that choir that just runs through your veins as the fire goes up and you see the title, and it's just holy fucking shit. I don't know.
You were in. No, I love that. That's so great. I mean, especially like you said, I went to Catholic school too to the age of 10, so I hear you.
Yeah.
My aunt used to shame me if I didn't want to go to church, and I would just be like, "Oh my God, you got to be kidding me!" And then by
exactly, yeah.
By
so,
13 or
just
14,
sit there.
yeah. I was totally drawn the same thing, especially growing up listening to metal, and around that time we were definitely in that Satanic Panic era where also just the connection, of horror movies and metal, and just that imagery. But so my number one definitely is a movie most people have not seen. It's called The Way of the Gun. Have you ever heard of that movie?
Oh, that's who is that? Is that God? Is that Depp?
No, it's Ryan Phillippe and
Benicio
del Toro. Yo, in the beginning of this movie,
I'm thinking of my wrong old heartthrobs.
Yo, the beginning of this movie is amazing. So, Benicio and Philippi actually are sitting on this car talking, and I guess they happen to be sitting on this dude's car, and his girlfriend is Sarah Silverman. And she's like, yo, what the fuck are you doing on this guy? Like, they're just yelling. I guess they're online to go to a concert. And she keeps yelling at him, be like, yo, get the fuck off my boyfriend's car, or he's going to come over and fuck you in the asshole. And then he just turns.
Oh, my God, I have seen this movie. And it just shadow.
He goes he's like, yo, shut that cunt's mouth up before I walk over there and fuck start her head.
Fuck start her head. That's the line. Oh my God.
And he they walk over there, and she's like yelling all these fucking obscenities that would probably get my podcast canceled if I repeat them. But so it's just hilarious, and he just they walk over, and the first thing he does is he just breaks Sarah's nose. And then fucking Benicio grabs this girl and kisses her, and she spits on him. So she's wearing open-toe shoes, and he stomps on her feet, and then the crowd beats the shit out of those two, dude. It was just one of the most bizarre openings. I just couldn't even it's so hilarious that to this day, anytime I watch that opening, and it's a great movie, James Caan, just really, really good underrated movie, The Way of the Gun. That's my number one.
Excellent, man. Excellent. And a very good reason to have it, too. That is, man, because that just takes you right out of any expectation that you think is going to happen and just brings you right into all right, this is going to be kind of weird and fucked up, but I'm into it.
I'm going to send you the clip just so you could watch it again, because it's so, it's 2.5 minutes, and it's I might even just play it at the end of this episode, because it's just so fucking, it's so over the top, and it's just because Sarah Silverman, sells it so much, and she kills it. It's so funny. Cool, man. Yo, thanks for hanging out with me on this Friday night, quarantine.
Dude, of course, man. This is, this is a little bit different than what my Friday nights are used to, but I'll take them for now.
You and me both, man. Trust me. This whole sitting at home thing sucks, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, we're lucky that we have sick people like you that are still putting out awesome shows like this. So thank you so much for having me, man. It was so awesome to get here. I'm sorry for babbling. I'm not used to people wanting to hear what I have to say.
No, that's it. People, people hear what I have to say all the time. So the fact that you get to really put a stamp on this episode and, talk about Rust and Gold and a lot of the other stuff. So thank you so much for doing it, man.
Hell yeah, brother. I'll see you soon, man.
I will see you soon, Frank.
Thanks, dude.
Later.
Fuck you talk, boy. You already know we do, boy. Kiss.
Hey, what's going on, Parker?
Hey, man, how are you?
Just hanging. Welcome to whatever Red River this is going to be. I know that you were attending to your son, Grant.
Yeah. Today was all over the place. He didn't get he was cranky, and then he didn't eat on time, and it's all over the place.
How interesting is it to basically having to deal with someone who is a child and you can't have a rational conversation with, so you have to make them as comfortable as possible.
Yeah.
Do you do do you put an orange in your mouth like the Godfather and dance around?
I mean, right now he's starting to teethe, so just it's brutal. I mean, it's only going to get worse, but I feel horrible for the kid because he's just crying and shoving every object into his mouth to soothe himself.
Wow. Okay, that's cool. How's mom doing?
She's doing good. I mean, she actually started back to work Friday, obviously like satellite wise, she's not going into the city. So that was just a change, just, going back since she's been out of work since like, late December is when she had the kid. So.
Huh. Must be nice. Must be nice to get back. Routines are great, man. It's just, I like them. I wish, I don't know, like I guess eventually May 15th or whatever that end date was, hopefully we could, I mean, obviously nothing's going to go away, but we're going to just live a little bit with these precautions in place for like a few months, which is fine. I like the masks.
Yeah. I mean, right now, like I feel like the guy Desmond from Lost, where like I'm just like living in this hatch, and it's just like literally every day it's like the same shit over and over. It's like I wake up, I eat, I try and do like some sort of like physical activity, like I hang out with the kid, then I feed the dog, then blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's I watched this movie recently called Vivarium. With Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots, and it's the same thing. They live in this house, and they if you look up the word vivarium, it's like kind of like a controlled substance, controlled area thing, like some type of like living aquarium type. I don't know. I forget the actual definition, but it's just this weird simulation that you kind of wake up and you do the same thing, and I guess you don't really get out much, and whatever. But anyway, so I know that you were watching some A24 movies, which I thought was interesting considering that they are so polarizing. I've seen some A24 films that are complete garbage, and then some that are, amazing. But so let me just get this out of the way. A24 is a movie company. They make movies. I know that a lot of people, when they watch certain films, they'll see that thing pop up, and it says here, A24 is an American independent entertainment company founded August 20th of 2012 by Daniel Katz, David Finkel, and John Hodges. They're based out of New York. I know that they got some speed when they landed movies called Ex Machina, and another one called Room, which I thought was super interesting. And later on, they did stuff like The Witch, which I think is the worst movie of all time. And
I still got to watch that one.
Just recently, my favorite movie of last year, Uncut Gems. So
good one.
That is A24 in a nutshell. I know that you watched a whole bunch of them, so I thought it'd be interesting to just hear you talk about them.
Yeah, well, it's funny because, I went onto the website and started looking at the back catalog, and, so I checked out a couple of the movies, and I was just like, holy shit, I've actually seen like a couple of these movies without even knowing that they were A24 movies. So the ones that I had watched without even knowing that I was watching this company was Tusk, Florida Project, Slice, Skin, Good Time, and Mississippi Grind. So those were the ones that I had watched without even knowing anything about this company and anything. But then I decided to take like a deep dive into this company. And then anybody that listened to like the previous call in, I had watched probably like 5 or 6 in that. And I know that you wanted me to, talk about like 10 of these ones. So these are 10 new ones that I actually watched, and I kind of categorize these.
And that's fun. Before we get there, I'm going to pick one out of the ones that you just mentioned because it was pretty polarizing, but I enjoyed it because it was so absurd. I saw it in the movie theaters. It's called Tusk. What did you think of that?
Yeah, great movie. I loved it. I mean, it definitely played with your emotions. I mean, I definitely kind of felt like bad and depressed for the guy at the end, but it definitely like pulled like your heartstrings, I felt.
Yeah, it's if you told me that you hated it, I would understand. But the people that enjoyed it, it's just so fucking like, it was just a really absurd movie, body horror, and man, like I think it was formed from just kind of the Kevin Smith podcast, and they took it from there.
Yeah,
which I thought was interesting. But okay, yeah, go on with your discussion.
Okay, so number 10, I think I had just watched this. This was the recent one, and this is from 2016, and it was by the same guy that directed The Strangers, and this one was called The Monster.
Really? What, the first Strangers?
Yeah. The first Strangers he did, yeah.
Okay.
And did you see that one or no? The Monster.
Is that the one with the mom and kid and they're in the car?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
I thought that it was very very Cujo-like. You're trapped in the car. But then, with the title, The Monster, they obviously start showing flashbacks of the family, and, the mother's got, the drinking problem and the drug addiction. I mean, there is an actual monster in the movie, but then you kind of start thinking to yourself, like, is it about like the real monster or is it the mother?
Yeah. That's currently, where's that? I think that's up on like Netflix too, right?
Yeah, the majority of these ones that I'm finding is either on Prime or Netflix. Those are the two streaming companies that have the most A24 movies.
Cool. All right. So you enjoyed The Monster?
I did.
Me too. I thought it was very underappreciated. I think eventually people, once the world hears this episode, they're gonna check out The Monster.
I hope. So now number 9, I remember a few years ago, I did start it and I don't know what the hell happened. I lost track of it or whatever. But then I went back after I found out, that it was an A24. So this was from 2017. And the main reason why I like this was one of the actors, this guy, Joel Egerton, who's in this movie, The Gift. He's in this movie, The Warrior. And this movie's called It Comes at Night.
Okay, that was very polarizing. That was, I know, the people who went to go see it in the theaters, of course, they basically had their say of it. I actually started watching it, and I never finished it, but what I watched, I probably got like 20, 30 minutes in. I don't really, life happens, and you just don't go back to something. I was liking what I was watching, so what did you think?
Yeah. I mean, you definitely have to finish it because the last probably 5 to 7 minutes are I think it makes the movie.
Okay.
And I mean, watching this movie now, I feel like it's the perfect movie for right now because I hate to say it, it's about like a virus. It's about supplies. They're wearing masks and gloves in every scene.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. So that I'm stocking up on those because obviously very relatable. Although I'm not minding the mask. I like wearing it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean you do what you have to do. I mean, like it's crazy because I mean the last time we started doing the home deliveries for the food shopping and stuff like that, just so I don't have to leave the house. But the last time that I was out, it was probably about 2 weeks ago, and it was getting so bad that literally when I was food shopping, the local fire department shut down the supermarket because people weren't keeping their distance. People were like on top of each other, not wearing masks, touching each other, and somebody made a phone call and they shut it down.
Amazing. I don't know what it is about like it seems like, like I'm sure they were all adults in that fucking supermarket.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you just follow the rules? It's not like we want to do this, So it's just if that's what it is, just fucking do it, and But what do you got? Number 8.
Number 8 was the same year, 2017 again, and this one was fucking crazy. So this was called A Prayer Before Dawn.
Oh, let me look that up because that sounds familiar. Yeah. Tell me about it.
And so it's about this boxer, and he gets locked up in a prison in Thailand, and just pretty much has to fight to survive. He has to fight, local fighters just so they pretty much don't beat the shit out of him because it's all these Thailand guys against him. And, a lot of them have AIDS. So there's one scene where actually one of them takes a vial of blood and threatens to insert it into his vein if he doesn't fight. It's fucking crazy.
So, that's a true story, actually.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. It says, I'm looking it up now. I guess it's, true story of this guy. Hold on. Let me of course it blanks out on me, but it says it's a true story, based on it. So remarkable true story of Billy Moore, a young English boxer incarcerated. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so that was just fucking crazy. Just everybody sleeping on floors, and it's fucking crazy.
Must be nice if you know how to fight and you end up going to jail. I mean, and you like doing that. I would imagine it's one of those things that, if you wanted to fight, I would imagine that's a great place to do it. So it's every day you could test your skills out.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, Prayer Before Dawn, 2018. Cool. What else?
Yeah. So then 2017, this was, I know, one of your favorites, Lady Bird.
It was.
Yeah.
I really liked it. But
Yeah, so I went into that not really knowing anything, and I thought it was going to be like a little artsy and stuff like that, but it was pretty straightforward, and I loved it, you know?
what I really liked about it, and what I mentioned when I added on our list in 2018, was just I don't know. I just identified with this girl who was just, trying everything to just leave her town, and like she was just so rebellious and wanted to just constantly not conform and fight, and
Yeah.
her journey throughout this movie, and her relationship with her mom. I don't know. Very good movie. I could see.
She was awesome, by the way, Laurie. I thought Laurie Metcalf was great in that.
Yeah, she killed. When you think
Yeah.
of that cast of Roseanne, and she's done a lot of cool stuff, and I think she got recognized for this. I'm not maybe she was like Oscar nominated for it. But I feel like Greta Gerwig, who wrote the movie and directed it, got the same. But yeah, definitely great movie, and I don't know if Eighth Grade is on that list, but it's
That was actually on the original one that I did.
okay. So it's not on this one.
No, but eighth grade I loved.
Yeah, it was a good companion piece. It's interesting because we're grown men watching the life of this young girl, and it's still super relatable. But yeah, okay, cool.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't throw it on. So what's after Lady Bird?
So after Lady Bird, so I thought that this one was going to be kind of like a chick flick, but it was pretty funny. So this was from 2018. It was called Never Going Back.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah, and it was about it's pretty much about two roommates, two friends that live together. They both dropped out of high school. They're both waitresses, and one of them is going to be turning 17, and she was talking about how shitty her 16th birthday was. So her roommate actually wants to take the rent money and take her on vacation, take her to a beach. And just everything kind of goes wrong. I don't want to get too much into the movie, but I thought it was going to be like a supreme chick flick, but I was actually laughing through the majority of the movie.
Okay. What's it called again?
It's called Never Going Back.
Interesting. I don't even see it on my list here, but okay, cool.
Yeah. And then number 5 was from 2014, and that was, I don't even want to attempt to pronounce it. It was the X, whatever the movie, the word is.
Machina?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And that was wild, man. I mean, that guy, Oscar Isaac, the actor, who's actually in another one movie that I'm going to be talking about soon. I thought that he was amazing in it. I mean, I thought same thing. I thought it was just going to be a stupid like sci-fi robot movie, but this thing really definitely took you and just held you for the entire time of the movie. And I thought that the ending was great.
Yeah, this was really, really good. This was around the time that, like I mentioned, I guess maybe I started paying attention to the movies this company puts out, because, so much stuff gets released. It's like a label back in the day. You pay attention to what that label puts out, and you're like, okay, Sub Pop, okay, Matador, same thing. Once I saw A24 was attached to it, I would definitely check it out, especially back then. And Ex Machina was really, really fucking good, man.
Yeah, and I saw that the director did Annihilation, which was another visually stunning movie.
Yeah. Also, it has the writer, I think. So Alex Garland. I forgot what he has to do with this movie, but he wrote 28 Days Later, and the movie.
Oh, great movie!
The movie Sunshine, which is really underrated. Did you ever hear of Sunshine?
No, that one I never heard of.
It's kind of like a weird sci-fi slasher in space with that dude Cillian Murphy, and it's
okay.
Man, it's really interesting. You should look that movie up because it's just strange and really cool, and I don't think a lot of people talk about it. But okay, cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Ex Machina, number 5. What do you got at number 4?
So number 4 is I think that this is my oldest one on the list. This is actually from 2013, and the lead is one of my favorite actors. But then, like, when I saw that it literally takes place in a car the entire movie, I'm just like, holy shit! Like, first thing I thought about was like Phone Booth with Colin Farrell. I'm just like, holy fuck, is this going to be boring? And the guy's just like trapped in the car or whatever. But it was Tom Hardy who stars in it. It's called Locke, and I mean, I'm a huge Tom Hardy fan, so I loved it.
Yeah, I never saw this one, so give me a rundown of it.
So like I said, he takes place, in a car ride, and pretty much this guy's life just, I don't want to say flashes before his eyes, but kind of gets destroyed on a car ride. So it starts, he leaves work. And then, he gets a phone call how like deliveries are missing and they're showing up, late. He winds up getting fired from his job. He winds up, he was cheating on his wife. The girlfriend calls him. She's pregnant. She's having the baby tonight.
Oh, man.
He calls the actual wife and confesses to her. It's just like, it's a shit show. And it all takes place in a car ride.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. I love stuff like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
Because when you do, I'm glad you finally saw Harpoon.
Yes.
How good was that?
That was great because I love movies that I don't know any of the actors, and I had a blast with that movie. I thought that it was so fun. I love the ending.
Okay, so let's detour for a moment here because my buddy, Rob G, sent me a whole bunch of screeners from the company he was working for at the moment. And that was one of them. And when I watched it, I couldn't talk about it because he was like, you have to wait till next year or whenever it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, this movie is so fucking good. And it's kind of just one setting. It's three actors, and then you're basically on the boat. And just like, you mentioned this movie Locke, where it's interesting when you have really one main setting, because at that point, if the movie's great, it's because the writing is great and the performance is great and it connects. And Harpoon is one of those movies, man. You just like, by the end, you're like, son of a bitch. You're like, this is good.
Like when that popped up on Showtime, I hit like play like right off the bat.
Cool. Yeah. Because Showtime's free now and they're streaming that. So I'm glad that movie's kind of finding an audience. So
yeah, me too.
Number 3 of your A24 list.
So number 3, I think one of our friends from a past episode, Ralph, actually worked on this movie. So I guess he might have done some makeup or something. And this was called Low Tide.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So this was another friendship movie. It's about 4 friends, and they wind up finding some very valuable coins in like in the woods. And just like, typical movie, just, there's double cross and triple cross, and then they start cashing in some money, and what is it worth? Who can we trust? Yada, yada, yada. But 2 out of the 4 guys is actually a big brother and a little brother.
Okay.
And then they have to take sides. Do they go with the money? Do they help each other out?
Okay. I like stuff like that.
Yeah. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I had no idea that who how'd you find out that he worked on it? Because
it's funny because I remember him posting something about it, and then I actually went onto his IMDb, and they do have him listed working on that.
Okay. You said High Life or Low Life?
Low Tide, it's called.
Low Tide.
Yeah.
I know that he also posted that he worked, anyway, we had Ralph on a few episodes ago, Ralph Lambiazzi. He also worked on Hunters.
Oh, yes, that I saw too.
Yeah. So he was doing, I guess, like the tattoos on Al Pacino. So good for him, man. Good for him.
Yeah, getting out there.
Yeah. So what do you have for number 2?
So number 2, funny enough, I was watching something and I posted about it. And funny enough, Tommy Corrigan started talking to me about A24, and he asked me if I had seen A Most Violent Year.
Oh, man.
And I never had.
Did he? Did he really?
Yeah. He was asking me if I liked it. So I said, all right. I said, I'll check it out. And I loved it.
Okay. Let's stop here for a second. So that's funny you mentioned this movie. I love Oscar Isaac. I think he's a really great actor. He does a lot of cool work. Years ago, I think we were living in Patchogue, And this movie had come out, and I was like, I really need to see this movie. It looks great, and A24 was attached to it. He was attached to it, and the name of the year the name of the movie just seemed like something I would want to see. I watched it, and I got to tell you, I thought it was one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. So tell me what it is that you liked about it.
The thing is, I went into it, just from the name and the cover. I thought that it was going to be like a gangster movie.
Me too.
And I kind of liked that it wasn't.
Okay.
Because like every time that I thought, because the wife, I mean, I don't know how well you remember the movie at all, but the woman that plays his wife in the movie, I think her father was like a mobster or something, because every time he was getting hard up for money, she was saying, I'll give my dad a call and blah blah blah, and he never wanted to get the help. He was always saying, I'll take out a loan from like my brother or the bank or something like that. And I thought that the ending was great. I don't know if you really remember the ending at all when that one employee shows back up at the end.
Yes, I remember all that stuff. It had to do with fuel, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, you watched it and you liked it. I watched it and I I just what the surprise for me worked for you. But man, when I was like, "Where's all the killing and violence?" and I got none of it. So
yeah.
But okay, cool, interesting. He told you to watch it too. I guess it connected with people because it was very much a critic movie. They loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why, but okay, cool. So A24, you're number one.
Yeah. So number one, this was actually called The Rover, and it was from 2014. And this was Robert Pattinson and Guy Pearce. And I thought Robert Pattinson was amazing in this movie.
Oh, is that a space movie?
It's not space, but it's like an apocalyptic movie where, it's not as crazy as like a Mad Max or a Road Warrior, but you definitely got to go out. You got to find like fuel. You got to find food, water, supplies, stuff like that.
Okay, that's kind of what I remember. So good for Pattinson doing his thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I never realized that. I think he's in like 4 or 5 A24 movies now. Yeah,
because they probably have a total of like 85, 90 movies. And yeah, man, he's done a lot of cool stuff. I was not a big, obviously I wasn't the audience for that Twilight stuff. So, he wasn't catering to me.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
But, the stuff that he's done after, it just like Good Time for sure. Like
oh, absolutely.
Good Time blew me away. Just the way that when Mark Wahlberg transitioned and he was in the movie Fear, and Boogie Nights. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, this dude is actually like okay. Like he's actually like I'm gonna have to look out for him. Same thing with like an Elijah Wood. These are people who find these roles that they're very passionate about, and that they're sure they'll do an occasional big movie, but like they're super passionate about like these like really cool stories, and I think Pattinson is definitely one of those. So
yeah.
What are some give me like 3 A24 movies that you didn't get a chance to watch but you want to watch?
I know the next 2 that are on my list was A Ghost Story and How to Talk to Girls at Parties.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I'd like to see that as well. I know Malamo, Mr. Mike Malamo is a big fan of A Ghost Story.
Okay.
And he wanted me to check it out. I think it's like 90 minutes, super easy, up on Netflix at the moment. So
I'll tell you one that I watched I was not a fan of was The Bling Ring.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That is so that's a real story if I remember.
Yeah, that's kind of why I watched it. It was a true story, and the fact that like Francis Ford Coppola was like a co-producer, I was like, "Oh, I'll check it out." Well,
yeah, it's his directed by his daughter.
Exactly.
Who does great stuff. And but I remember it's like these kids that would rob like rich actors or something.
Yeah, celebrities. Yep.
Yeah, okay, that's what it was. And I know maybe there was like an Asian girl who was the head of the ring, because I know if you watch like enough of American Greed or one of those like Datelines and shit like that, like they mentioned the Bling Ring.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Well, I'm glad that you're doing this deep dive on such an artsy label.
But yeah, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do after this. You know, maybe I'll be back at work by then.
Yeah, God, I hope so. I fucking hope so. I hope everything. I hope everything inches back slowly. I hope we get to go back to band practice. I hope we get to make some music. Get to hang out, have Pizza Friday over there.
There you go. That's it.
And that's it, man. Anything else you want to add?
I did catch a couple episodes on Shudder for that cursed film series.
Oh my God, let's talk about that. What?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So did you? All right, there's 5 of them. So which ones did you see?
I did Poltergeist, The Crow, and The Twilight Zone.
Okay, so why'd you pick those? Because out of the 5, those are the only 3 good ones.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like The Crow, I love. I know like a lot of people shit on that movie, but like I've always been a fan of that movie. Twilight Zone, funny enough, is one of, if not the first movie I remember seeing in the movie theater when I was a little kid. So I had to watch that. And then Poltergeist still fucking scares the shit out of me, like to this day, the original.
So what did you think? Let's start with Twilight Zone. I had no idea. I don't know why I didn't know Vic Morrow. Like, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know that his daughter is Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah.
So I'm watching this, and I had no idea that I was about to watch an actual death.
It was, yeah. He was losing it like during those interviews, you know?
Did you know that he died on this film? I had no idea.
I had no clue. No, I had no clue.
So you watched that footage for the first time, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I'm like, how did they survive that? And then you realize, like,
yeah,
I'm sure.
I mean, the Crow, obviously, the Crow episode, I knew going into that, the whole story of how, they thought there was a blank in the gun and yada, yada.
Yeah, well, that one, of course. I just, I couldn't believe that they showed the footage of, the 3 deaths. I wasn't waiting for it. The Crow, I knew. And that's fucked up too, and obviously Poltergeist, same thing. It's just like you see this girl, and then that medical condition, and then it's a misdiagnosis. Man, really strong. The Exorcist episode was okay. The Omen episode was okay, but those last 3 are really definitely horrific. Because of like just those situations are really tough to basically think of and watch, especially like Brandon Lee, like just beginning, Rapid Fire and fucking Showdown in Little Tokyo, the son of Bruce Lee, and then he gets fucking killed on the weirdest like overlook mishap, But I, for Shudder, I love Shudder, man. That $5 a month goes a long way for me.
That's it.
Big fan. But okay, cool. I guess, we'll talk about something else sometime soon.
Sweet.
We'll touch base. If you think of anything, we'll throw it on the pile. And now
awesome.
I'm gonna go call up Langan now.
Nice.
All right, later, Parker.
All right, man. Stay safe.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.